Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Valoppi, a longtime television newscaster, journalist, and author, and the founder of the Women of Tomorrow Mentor and Scholarship Program. This podcast is designed to highlight the women of today and what we can do to help other women achieve their dreams. It's all about women helping women. And today we're going to be talking about power as it relates to one of the most powerful businesses there is, the film industry, and one of the most powerful women in it. Television, streaming services, and all forms of media have a pervasive impact on how we see the world. It shapes the way we think, behave, and even how we feel about things, especially when we're talking about culture, personal identity, politics, and personal values. The media can elevate or bury entire issues. It determines what we think is attractive, how we view success and societal norms. It challenges stereotypes and it shifts beliefs. It can change attitudes in a matter of weeks or months, and it determines how you shop and even what you buy. So, who is making these decisions that have such a profound impact on our lives? And how do you get a seat at the table? And what's the state of women in film? Those are some of the issues we will explore today with Keri Selig. Keri is one of a small group of women who are at the core of the Hollywood power structure, and she's built a truly amazing legacy. She's an Oscar, Golden Globe, and multi Emmy Award nominated producer, as well as the founder and president of Intuition Productions. Before that, she was executive senior VP of production at Warner Brothers Bel Air Entertainment, as well as Coppelson Entertainment at 20th Century Fox and Court Madden at Paramount Pictures. So, welcome, Keri. It's great to see you, even albeit from a
Hi,
distance. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good, nice to see you. So, you've been a part of, the biggest studios there are. You also now are the owner of your own production company. Um, Women have a seat at the table, but it's not a very big seat at the table. Are you often the only woman in the room?
Well, definitely when I started my career, I was always the only woman at the table. Unless it was someone that I brought into the company. I would sit in boardrooms with 24, 25 men, and maybe it would mostly be me and maybe one other woman. I would say it's definitely in the boardroom is changed a little, not 100%, but there are a few more of us women in the boardroom than there were when I started, for sure.
Mhm. So the change over the past, say, 10 or 20 years, has it been like a super gradual or has it suddenly been big leaps and bounds of changes?
Well, I would say that there are a lot more female executives now than there were at the studio level, the buyer level, the development level, producer level. Definitely more women. But I would say a lot less on behind the scenes, for directors and writers. I mean, they are there, but who's getting hired is the question. But I would say that I think I definitely seek out the female executives at all the various different buyers around town from the studios and the streamers. But there are a very good core group of women now at the table.
Mhm. I think it's about 25 or 30% of women that are actually in the big power roles like you are, which would be producer and writers, showrunners, things like that. So you're definitely seeing them out there and seeking them out then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really just kind of trickles down, right? So there's the development executives who you go and you pitch projects to. And I would say that's like a 50-50 male, female. And then you go executive, senior vice president. And still it's the same in the buyer, and only in the executive world. And there's definitely a mix. And then when you go to the very top, I mean, I would say that the people who run the corporations in the company are almost all men.
Do you see the biggest changes at the studio level in streaming, in film, or is it television? Where are you seeing the biggest changes?
I mean, it started in television. It definitely started in television. You saw a lot more women in television. Uh, that was also in the last decade or so. But now, Amazon, Netflix, I would say most of the streamers have a lot of women in the development roles that are in the buyer role, that's the first time I've ever seen this, where you've seen a lot of the development executives are female. And I think possibly it's because a lot of the television for a while went more female. And now there's like an uptick of female driven type of movies that are sort of popular. So it's not just sci-fi and it's not just action anymore.
So what do you think it's gonna take to get women to the next level in media?
Hmm. I mean, we definitely have to just keep being entrepreneurial. And as you know, I left the whole studio system to be able to do the things that I want to do and not just for the job. And the jobs were great and, great stability and you got paid money, a lot of money. But I was making movies that the company wanted to make rather than the movies that I wanted to make. And so we would only make the kinds of movies that skewed for box office. So it was mostly action, mostly very male driven projects. So at some point, you just have to step out and say, these are the kinds of movies and the projects that I want to make. So how can I do that? And that's just, it's scary. We call it making the jump. You leave the big executive job and you jump to be entrepreneurial. There's not a lot of stability in it, but if you really love what you do, you kind of sometimes have to take a flyer and just go with your gut. Hence the reason my company is called Intuition Productions, because when I left the studio system after 15, 16 years, I sat there and I thought, well, what did I just do? Oh my God, I just ruined my life. I just left a great, great long career as an executive to start this company. And I thought, okay, I don't have a lot of money to offer. I don't have a deal. I'm not a movie star. What do I have? And I kept thinking, all I really have is my women's intuition. And that was too long of a name. So I just kept intuition.
Ah, that's a great way to name it, and I suspected it was gonna be something like that. I suspected it was all about your intuition. So I wanted to ask you, what actually made you take the leap of faith and leave the major studios? I mean, those are such big jobs and so hard to get.
Really big jobs. The thing is that back in the day it was different than it is now. I mean, I've been on my own for quite some time now, but during those days it was, I mean, you were getting, it was breakfast, lunch and dinners that it was required. You had to do breakfast, lunch and dinner with agents and writers and everybody. You had at least minimum of 30 projects that you were working on to find, open writing assignments, to get a director, to get actors, to get budgets. Then you were looking at all brand new material. So you were getting what's called a spec script, which is a writer writes speculatively a script. And they were incredibly popular at the time. And I was getting 11 submissions a night. And the spec market, that's just not regular, that's not books or anything else. So we had readers that would work until they could call you up till 4 a.m. And so you were reading as much as you could, and readers were calling you until 4 o'clock in the morning. So at some point, when you can smell your adrenals actually burning, and you can actually know that you can't breathe and you're like this all the time. I mean, you lived in a bubble. Like I didn't have a huge friend group. I couldn't just take off whenever I wanted because again, it was a different time. But it was, I mean, you were checking all day long about like when your options were up, all the legalities, making writer deals, reading scripts. When could you go to your boss and say, this is the one? You can't cry wolf. So you got to know. And you're bleary eyed and exhausted. You're reading the script and everyone's writing you. Did you read it? Did you read it? Did you read it? Your friends at other places. So you start believing the hype and then you go, oh my God, is this the one? So it was honestly time to try to do this on my own because I also just felt like I knew that I really wanted to make the kind of movies that I really wanted to make. I was really proud of the projects I worked on, and it was the greatest experience of my entire life. And being one of the only women in the boardroom, being on set, doing all these movies, it was exciting. But you're just an executive. I mean, not just, I mean, you are running the show, but you don't get
Right.
credit on any of the movies. You're a producer, but not in title. So you are definitely making all these movies for other people. And I thought maybe it's time for me to do this for myself. It
Well,
was
there's
scary.
definitely a couple questions I wanna ask you, based on what you just said, but first of all, what do you mean they can call you till 4 o'clock in the morning? Seriously?
So readers, what happens is you have at the time we had salaried readers on staff as well. So because of the massive amount of projects that were coming in, you physically could only read one project at a time. I mean, not one, but you could only read a couple scripts a night. So what would happen was when you would get like 11 scripts in one night, submissions, it's not like that now, but it was back then. You would have readers reading with you at the same time. So if they could flag something and say, this is like amazing, stop what you're doing, read this one now.
Mm.
So it would help you prioritize. And yes, they could call you up till 4 a.m. It's terrific on a relationship.
Wow. I bet. I bet. Well, and we'll talk about that a little bit more also, but I want to get into what exactly it takes to be a producer. You know, producer in television is different than a producer in film. And I know you, as the producer, are in charge of all the financial decisions, you know, kind of all the logistics, I guess, in a way, right? Can you explain how the job works and what's the first thing you
Sure.
do? You find the script, then what?
So it varies. I mean, every single project is like a snowflake, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. Every project comes in different forms. So it could be an article, it could be a book, it could be a script, which is a script written speculatively, so a spec script, an original. It could be just somebody telling you their life story. So it could be someone you heard, a story you heard. So what you and it's not as dissimilar in television as it is in film, but in television, the top credit is executive producer, and the top credit in film is producer. So those are the two distinctions of credit. But what you, as a producer, boy, it's if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably rethink it because it's soup to nuts. So what you do is you find the project, then you have to decide, okay, now what? So if it's a book, then you have to figure out how to get the rights. You get a shopping agreement. You can option the book, or if it's a script, the same thing. You can option it, get a shopping agreement. If it's an idea, then you have to go and then try to find the writer, and you have to find the take. You've got to find the writer. You've got to find the money. You've got to find the studio, the network, the streamer, and then you have to put it all together. You have to build a deck. You have to build, characters. You have to be able to find, cast, director, and then you have to figure out when's the right time to go out with something. You have to really decide, is it ready? Is it just, I mean, I've sold things just on a book. I've sold a book with a take, with the writer, with the director, with an actor. It just kind of depends. That's kind of where the skill set comes in. You have to decide at what point is it ready? When do I go out with it? How do I find the financing? How do I build it? Who do I partner with? Is it ready
Mhm.
just to go to the buyers, or do I need to find a movie star to make my partner and let them be a partner and starring in it? Is there a director play that I can partner? Every project I have has all different strategy, but I kind of equate it to like the war room. You put up boards on the wall, you put up cards on the wall or whiteboards, and you think about, what is my strategy? How am I going to get this done? And sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 5 years on one project.
So, are there films you know you can't get made right now?
Usually I look at a film and I think this is going to be such an uphill battle. But I look at it as I call these my tombstone projects. And what I mean by that is these are the ones that I would be so proud to make and that I would want on my tombstone. Like this is my legacy.
Right.
Like I would want everyone to remember me for making an important movie like this. So I'm willing to go that extra couple years and trying to figure out how to get this made, right time, right place, right person, right scenario.
Mhm.
So I have a handful of those that I know I'll never get made. Well, not never.
Like what? Like
It'll
what?
be, well, I mean, even the movie that I did for Netflix last year, which was the 688, which is about the all-female, all-black battalion in World War II. It's period. It's female. Was like the anti-yes movie. Like this is not a movie that everyone's going to clamor to make because it's all those like buzzwords that nobody wants in Hollywood. Like if it's a difficult, expensive period piece, It's all women. It's like, oh, no, thank you. And it was just one of those ones where I loved it so much. And I interviewed all the real women in the story. And I found this, found the story, found the women, and then interviewed them, and then made a little movie about these women. And that little movie that I was able to make, it's called a rip-o-matic. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like you rip, um, it's like a bit of editing job. So what you do is you make a narrative out of other images from other movies. And it just, I loved it so much, and I wanted it to happen so badly that I feel like it was right after COVID. It was right during COVID when I was developing it, that I just said, I'm going to find a way to make this happen, and was so hell bent on getting this one made. So that was one that I couldn't believe how quickly it happened. It normally wouldn't have, but I knew the right people that were going to help me get it done. And they led me to this path to get to the talent, to get to the right people that made it into a yes.
So, weren't you nominated for an Oscar for that?
So we had multiple nominations. We got we got a lot of different nominations for that one, and definitely we got an Oscar nomination as well. It was a fun one. I think a lot of people saw it. I think it was one of the highest watched movies in Netflix history. In every country in the world, they gave us all of the data on it, and it was pretty massive. It became a big movie, and the reason it sold, in my opinion, and the reason it got made, is because we put World War II back here. And ultimately, the story, and this was, as you would know from what you do for a living, was a lot of investigation and a lot of investigative um, um, findings to realize that this was a love story at the core. And there was a great love story buried in one of our lead characters. And that was just me sitting with her for days on end and trying to figure out her life story. So ultimately, it sold because of the love story.
So this was like Tyler Perry and Kerry Washington. I think you worked with Oprah Winfrey on that, and Sam Waterston, Susan Sarandon. I mean, you're saying this was one of what you would have considered to be a tombstone project, and then it achieved all this phenomenal success. So I'm wondering who's making these decisions on what's a tombstone project or not.
Well, usually when something is, like I said, a period piece, when it is a true story, they're very difficult to get made.
Mhm.
Also, women, all women, diversity. It had it was just not like a zeitgeisty. We have to make this. This is, it just didn't feel like one of those kinds of movies. But we were lucky enough when we made this sizzle reel, and we put together, it was undeniable when you watch this I have to show it to you sometime. It's pretty, I'm so proud of it. The sizzle reel we made is like the movie, and it's really like not a dry eye on the house. You just end up crying after watching this thing, and you realize what the movie is. But I think that was what we sent out to everybody. That's what got
Yeah.
our partners on this at Netflix, and Tyler and Oprah and Keri. Every single person saw this sizzle reel and said, "Sign me up." And then after we got our script, um, we were off to the races. It was one of the fastest, and we shot it. We were in prep over Christmas and New Year's. So a lot of these people that are in this movie were all out of all of our phone books. And we just called them and said, just watch this 2-minute sizzle and tell me if you want to be involved. And they all said yes.
Is it true that it was because you made a promise to one of the veterans that you were going to get this movie made that you pursued it so aggressively?
Yes, my partner and I, this wonderful woman, who's also a journalist, Carlota, sent me this article, and then we together found these women. We went like private investigator type. We just went on Google. We called the military. We found this wonderful woman inside the Army who helped us find the various different women. During COVID, we had 6 masks on our face. We flew on an airplane. We thought we were all going to die. I mean, it was like the scariest thing. And we just were so persistent. And when we finally met our Lena King, who's the real woman this is based on, we promised her that we were going to get this done. And we promised her that in her lifetime, I think at the time she was 99, that we were going to
Wow.
make this movie before she passed. And at the time, I think there was 850 women in this battalion in real life. And at the time when we started, there were 5 left. And today there's 1 left. And
Oh,
she
wow.
is 105. In fact, she's I think she's gonna be 105 in September. And she's amazing. And she's still living on her own.
Was making this movie part of the reason why you left the major studios?
Not this one. No, no, I did. No, this was soon. This was after I went out on my own to just go on to a. I ended up making a lot of really powerful female projects after I left the studio system. I ended up with I did the Kennedys, and after Camelot and Marilyn Monroe, I did the miniseries on Marilyn, and just started getting into things that were not really the studios. It wasn't really there. They didn't really want to make those kinds of things. And I ended up going off and really making things that I loved. I did just a ton of docs and documentaries and miniseries and television. And that was something I was really interested in doing.
Oh, but what gave you the courage to do that? What gave you the courage to take that leap of faith?
I think I was so burnt out. Because prior to this, which I didn't explain, is I didn't just wake up one day and become a studio executive. I had my own trajectory as an independent producer first, sitting at a dining room table in my tiny apartment and trying to figure out how to be a producer and working 5 other jobs at the same time and running around, going back to my film school, asking everyone if they had something I could read and giving them there's a legal limit to get an option on a screenplay, which is $1. And so I was giving them the $1, getting their screenplay, working with them feverishly and finding scripts. And so the stint that I had before I became an executive, these were all projects that were like my babies. So what I was doing is, it was being crazy. I kept all up prior to all my deals, all of my executive dumb. I exempted all of these projects outside of my deals. So what I was able to do, which was insane, was I had my own slate, and then I was an executive on the slate of the studios I was at. So I was juggling constantly. So I was making movies on the side of the movies, and I just couldn't work during the business hours. So sometimes in fact, I made a movie for HBO while I was an executive at Warner Brothers, and I shot in LA one of the few times ever. And I would go from 7 p.m. till 5 a.m. And then I would go sleep 2 hours, shower, get dressed, and go back to work and be an executive all day. And I did that for like a couple months. And I was doing that constantly, where I was on set. I was doing a movie when I was at Paramount, shooting in Toronto. And I had another movie that was mine prior, shooting in Toronto. So what I did is I made the schedule. One was Monday through Friday, and the other one was Wednesday through Sunday, because we needed federal buildings. So I could do that Wednesday through Sunday because I had to shoot in federal buildings, both in Toronto, both at the same time. And I worked 7 days a week. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world, because this was all I wanted my whole life. So I wasn't going to be tired or, lack any sleep but eventually, by doing all of this, there was a lot of moving chess pieces. I would get offered a new job, and then a new position at a new studio for more money. And I would say yes, but I would need 3 months in between so I could go make this other movie. But then I'd have to, if it got into a film festival, I would go to the film festival, premiere the movie, and cover the film festival for the company I was working for. So I think I ultimately kind of just like burnt out, and I was so exhausted that I knew that I had a 3-year with a mutual, I could renew a mutual renewal. And I just had to sit there and think, do I really want to keep doing this? This is something I knew it was time to take a leap of faith on myself. And again, I came up with that title, intuition, while I was sitting on an airplane going on a vacation, my first big vacation in a long time, and having a little bit of a panic attack, going, "What the f did I just do? Oh my god, I'm an idiot!" But I did it. I was terrified. It was not an easy thing.
Well, I think usually terror is probably the first sign of success. When you feel that terror, you know that something it's either going to be something really good or really bad at the end of it, right? So
Then I
one
must
way
be
or
super,
another.
I must be super successful because I'm, terrified all the time.
So tell me, most kids grow up dreaming about being in film. You grew up dreaming about making film. Tell us all about that and how you got into the business in the first place.
Well, I would say that just humble, humble beginnings. My parents were divorced when I was 9 years old. My father was, the weekend dad, and my mom's obsession in life was film and plays, and she loved film so much. We would go to the movies, and we would we'd go to the movies in the morning. Sometimes she'd be with me, sometimes she'd leave me there, and I would sneak in from one movie and I'd sneak into another movie. I would stay there 8 hours. I would be there all day. And because we didn't have the movies on our television at the time, we had like 3 or 4 channels and that was it. So I would be at the movies
Yeah.
all weekend. And then um, during the week, my brother and sister, who are wonderful, were off at college. I was younger. And my mother, who's a school teacher, we had a little black and white TV that was portable, and she would put it in between us in the bed. And we would watch Casablanca, and we would watch Sunset Boulevard, and we would watch because it was one channel called Movies Till Dawn. It was on Channel 5, and you could watch movies until 5 a.m. And they were mostly black and white. And we would watch them all night long. And in fact, my teachers were concerned that there was some abuse going on at home because I would be falling asleep at my desk constantly and I'd be just passing
Yeah.
out. And they called my mother and said, "What is going on at home? We were worried about Keri." And it turned out it was because we were watching movies all night and I was barely getting any sleep. So she ingrained the movie thing in me early on. And on the weekends, if I wasn't at the movies, I was watching television. I just loved what it was my escape. It was where I was my happy place. It was where, coming from either like, I don't know what it was, either it was just a broken home. My mom wanted me to go out and play and I wanted to watch movies. That was it. Like, I don't know what possessed me, but it was ingrained in me as a child. And so I think when I was going to college and I was a business major and I realized that I truly sucked at math. And this is before computers and before you could do everything on your phone. I had to figure out another major, and my mom said, "Go to film school." And I was like, "Why? What am I going to do with that degree?" And she said, "I don't know, just go do it." So I changed my major and I went to film school. And this is when you had to raise a lot of money to be in film school. You had to pay for all your own film stock. You had to be constantly making movies, but you had to pay for them. So I had college debt up the wazoo, but I was also on the weekends I was going out and trying to raise funds. I was actually like going out to nightclubs and meeting all these people, and I ended up getting an intro to the guy who who owned like the biggest film stock company. And I would say, "Do you want to give us free film stock?" During film school, this is why I knew I was going to be a producer, because you don't know what you're going to be yet in film school. But I was making fake, I was such a terrible person, but I was making these like fake permits so I could film anywhere, and they were completely fake. We made them at film school, and I tried to direct, and I was only a good director because I had a great DP. So I knew I wasn't going to be a director. I couldn't sit down and write the screenplay. I was great ideas and I was a great editor, so I wasn't going to be a screenwriter. I don't like being in front of the camera. That was not my favorite place to be ever. And I was really good at putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm out on the weekends raising money to get film stock, making fake permits so I could film longer in like public places until I got caught. And that's where I knew that I was going to be a producer, was just, I like figuring out how to make things happen when there's every roadblock and everyone says no.
So you were an entrepreneur and a business person as well as a great film lover. So it actually makes total sense, right?
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I tried my hand at a lot of different things, when I was doing a lot of odd jobs in the beginning, but I was always a bit of a, I mean, I was a hustler for sure. I always was trying to figure out, because I didn't have much. My mom was working full time. It was just, I had to figure out how to fend for myself, and not just fend for myself, but how do I make something out of this? How do I, how
Mhm.
can I get what I can get and use it to advance whatever I'm trying to do?
But how did you actually get the break into the business? Because I think that first job and that first entree into any business, especially in entertainment, is always the hardest to do.
It's a good one. The next couple are insane stories, and forgive me for this. The first story is a good one. The second one, yeah, it's a cautionary tale. But the first one was, I was working, again, multiple jobs. I was working at this nightclub. It was this incredibly popular nightclub. That there was one in New York and one in LA, and it was called the China Club. I don't know why they made a documentary about it, but it was a really big deal. And what they did, it was a nightclub in Hollywood, and they would have everyone, any music star that was in town, they would ask me to pretty much try to find out who was in town. And I would call every major hotel in Los Angeles and say, hi, my boss is going to kill me. I've got flowers. I know Mick Jagger is staying there, and I think he's under this fake name, but I've got like $500 worth of flowers that I have to send to the hotel. And if I don't figure it out, they're going to fire me. Can you please just tell me if he's there? So I would call all the hotels and find out who was in town. Prince, Mick Jagger, I mean, you name it. It was insane. And I'm sitting at a desk in a boiler room, just calling people, trying to figure out who's in town. And then the China Club was all of the people who were here would come to the club, and then they would jam on stage. So, and I was Monday nights. So you could have Prince, you could have, again, I said Mick Jagger, every movie star, every rock star is on stage jamming, Monday night jams. So we're getting prepared for one of the big Monday night jams week prior, and they rented out the club during the day, and it was it was the height of MTV, and it was a Janet Jackson video, and it was a multi-million-dollar production. I had nothing to do with it. I'm upstairs making shitty calls to hotel people trying to figure out who's in town, and they're doing this $1 million on the floor massive music video. And that's back in the day when they spent millions of dollars on those videos. And all of a sudden I hear on a bullhorn, "You're fired." And I'm like, wait, what? And I run down there and I said, "I went to film school. I can do it. Whatever you just fired. I heard you just fired someone. I know everything there is to know about film. I'll take the job." And they're
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Okay, yeah." And they go, "Do you even know what the job is?" I go, "It's okay. I don't care. I've done everything. I've made multiple movies. Like I made, student films." I said, I know everything. What is it?" And they said, "Well, it's a camera PA." And I go, "Great, no problem." It was a camera production assistant. Well, at the time, cameras weighed more than I did. And you're putting stuff on your shoulders, carrying massive gear. And I think within about 10 minutes of me with like tears rushing down my face, I didn't say anything, but it was just from the heavy equipment that I'm carrying in and out. And I've got cables all over me. I'm like literally barely standing on two legs. They came up to me and they said, "Okay, we're going to put you at craft services." I said, "Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." And my very first job in the whole business was working on a Janet Jackson video for MTV. And I ended up working in like every department you can imagine, because I'm one of those people where as soon as someone says they're fired or they don't have something, and I was the first one there, I was the last one to leave. I was taking cables and cameras and making sandwiches. I didn't care. I was going to make this my mission. And then from that crew, I found out that it's a very small PA. The PAs is like a coveted position. That there was a movie coming up, and they all said, you should try to get into this movie. And I said, "What do I have to do?" And they said, "Well, they're going to be meeting with people in Calabasas on this date. I took a lounge chair, like a little folding chair. I put it in front of the door, and I got there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. They weren't seeing anyone until 10 a.m. because I wanted to be the first one in line to meet for a production assistant position. And of course, I got it because I was the first one there. And that was my second film I worked on. It was a pretty big film. It was really fun. Like I learned a lot about real production and taking people to the hospital in the middle of the night. And again, I did everything I could to make sure that I was going to be important to them and they needed me. And then I got my next job. And it was another situation where I realized I could get a PA job, and I got it on another film. And I get on the set, and they said, first I'm a PA. Then they said they needed someone in wardrobe. I go, great, I can do this. I really didn't know what I was doing. I like clothes, but I didn't realize you had to take photos and continuity and do all that stuff. But I did it. I got into wardrobe, and then I heard them say, we need a location. We're in trouble. Well, in college, I knew a boy who was living in this big mansion, and he was like he was the house man. He like lived in the guest house. So I called him up and I said, can we use your boss's house? And he said yes. He said he didn't know why he said yes. I said, I'll get you $5,000. We used this huge mansion in Westwood, and we get there, and there's all these women, girls naked in the pool with this big ball that they're like playing, and they're all like wrestling in the pool. It's weird, but whatever. And then they go up to the bedroom, and it was like a boyfriend of mine, like from college, and he goes, we can't go in my boss's boyfriend. I'll get in so much trouble. I said, please, 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 can just do this for me. It was a closed set, and I realized it's like a threesome happening in the bedroom. And all of a sudden he comes down and he goes, what is this movie? And I said, I don't know. I didn't read the script, because as a PA, you never read the script. It was a softcore porn for Cinemax. And by the way, I am still credited on this movie for wardrobe, for locations. I can't get my name off this movie, but I realized soon after that, you better read the script before you go into a movie. It was fine, but yeah, that was my next foray into production. And then after that, I decided I wanted to go into development.
Well, I hope the owner of the house never figured out that they were in his bedroom.
I don't know. I never asked him. It was a long time ago. I should find out. I think he is.
Hopefully he doesn't watch softcore porn, right?
Well, that, and also I realized that $5,000, he should have been getting $25,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
So that was on my part too. Yeah.
But the real key to that story is kind of what I'm always telling, young people who are trying to get into any business. Just get your foot in the door. Get your foot in the door. Be willing to do anything anybody asks you to do, as long as it's, appropriate work, because, these businesses are too hard to get into. You got to take advantage.
Yeah. In fact, even after that, it was that's exactly what I did. That was my trajectory moving forward, was every single writer I could meet with, every book I could read, every person. I can tell you where it went from there if you'd like, but it's up to you.
Well, did you ever have a mentor? Did you ever have a female mentor?
I never did have a female mentor. I had a male mentor who was the most, I like a knight in shining armor to me, who, when I was running around with a trillion scripts and trying to get things made, I knew no one. I will repeat, I knew no one in the business. I had no leg up. I had no Nepo anything. I got out of film school, and I thought there was going to be a line of applications, and I would fill out a form and I would be whatever I wanted to be. And it wasn't like that at all. So when I joke, but I would go to the opening of an envelope, and I would literally go everywhere, every room. I would meet as many people as I could. And I would, at the time, they would give business cards out, and I would take a business card of that person, say, tell me about, who are you, blah, blah, blah. And I would turn around when they weren't watching, and I would write, woman, I met this wonderful woman. She's a journalist. She was wearing a red shirt. She told me she had 2 dogs. She has a husband named Phil, whatever. And I would put it down on the card, and then I would write to that person. And I would say, it was really nice meeting you. I hope your dogs are feeling better. I loved your red shirt. If there was any you would ever sit down with me and just have a meeting or give me 5 minutes of your time. I could come into your office. We could have a coffee. I would so appreciate it. And that was how I started building up my portfolio of people. And it worked because people love that you remember. They
Hmm.
love that you listened. They love a handwritten note. I mean, that if anyone got a handwritten note today, I think they would pass out. They wouldn't even know what to do with themselves. But email, text, whatever equivalent of today, and just the pure, just the follow up, and also just asking people if they would meet with you. Most people will, if you're kind and you have good questions, and just say, I only need 5 minutes. I only need just 10 minutes. I just have a couple questions. So when I was, so back to the mentor question, was when I was at a Thanksgiving dinner. My mother's best friend's ex-husband had a job at Fox, and he was at this dinner. It's a very weird situation. That was the only person I ever knew in the world in the business. And I ran over to the end of the table and I said, you don't know me, but I have this project and I think it would be great. Can I send it to you? And I pitched it to him at the table. And he loved it. And he sent it into a company called Interscope, which is Interscope Records, you would know, but they used to have a film company. It was a pretty big deal. They bought it. And I, again, did the same thing with like my chair. There was a development meeting and I got there 3 hours early with a pen, a big pad of paper. I was all and dressed up, always like not dressed up too much, but I always, dressed for nicely for meetings. And I got there right on, I was right there ready to go. I took notes, like arduous notes on the meeting with this man named David Madden, who ended up becoming my mentor. I typed up all the notes. I sent them to everybody. And I was I was the best partner that he'd ever seen. And he called me one day and he said, how much are you making on this project? And I said, oh my God, he gave me $200. And he said, because he's making $500,000 on this project. And I really don't think this is a really good idea that you're getting $200 and he's never even shown up to a meeting. He said, but we know who's doing the work and you're doing a great job. Just keep going. So what happened was this guy, David, took me to lunch after he saw me running around town setting up projects. I was such a great partner on this project. And he said that he and his partner were leaving Interscope and they were getting a deal. So I got my first big job at Paramount Pictures, a huge deal. It was going to be they had a $4 million discretionary fund, meaning they could buy projects. And he said, we have seen what you could do with nothing, working off your dining room table in your apartment or kitchen table. And we would love it if you would come over here and do what you're doing, just what you're doing, but we'll actually pay you. We'll give you insurance. We'll give you a parking space. We would love for you to come in here. And it was on a napkin. He literally wrote down on a napkin at lunch what he would pay me, pushed it across the table. And I said, done. And he gave me my first job. I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified. There was no Google. And that was my first big executive job at Paramount Pictures, running a company called Court Madden. And later on in life, when I first left the studio system, he was running Fox later on, and he gave me my first independent producer deal. And he gave me my first deal as my first person to support me when I first left the studio system.
Well, the whole film industry is a very incestuous business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the people that you build the relationships with, it's all about building relationships, as is every great business, I guess. It's really about building relationships and who you build those relationships with and maintaining them over time.
It's also about, in my opinion, and I want to believe this to be true, but it's really also about your word and your reputation, because yes, it is about building relationships, but you're only as good as your word as well, and your work ethic. So if you are, love all the glamour and of the business, that's not going to fly. You got to do the work. You got to read. You got to give great notes. You have to be the person who's going to be you can not talk to someone for 10 years. And if they remember you as having a good taste or being a good person or a hard worker, they'll pick up the phone right away. So it's really about relationships, but you've got to be able to maintain who you are, what you stand for, because otherwise they're not going to return your call.
So, talk to me a little bit about work ethic and what you look for in the people you hire in your company now.
Uh, so I have a lot of women in my company, a lot. And I have, it's just, it's what I look for is like tenacity. Obviously, I look for smart, but I look for someone
Hmm.
who is always thinking 10 steps ahead. So what we love to roundtable everything constantly. And what I mean by that is we'll say, okay, so if we do this, what are the ramifications? What do you think, the good, the bad, the ugly? What are we going to do? So I love people who are constantly thinking that way. How can we figure out, is this going to be just on every level, like really doing the work, reading, coming up with great notes, asking great questions? Because I know this sounds like a cliche, but there are no bad questions. I want someone to constantly, and also someone who who holds me responsible. I love having debates. I like talking about things about how can we make this better. And I don't have to be the one who's always pushing everybody up all the time, because that's also exhausting. I love the people around me. It's our energy together. So I look at people who are self-starters, who are asking all the right questions, doing all, just constantly doing the work and surprising me. It's wonderful. But we have fun when it's fun. There's a lot of, we have highs together, we have a lot of lows together, but we push each other up. So I need someone I don't need to push up, but someone who's constantly like thinking ahead, doing the work, who's a great team player, who's just comes in and says, oh, I just did this last night, I met 5 people and this is what I learned, and bringing it all to the table and to the middle.
Hmm. So, let's talk about some of your current projects. I know you have 3 projects right now that have been greenlit and are getting ready to go. And they're kind of a really diverse hodgepodge of concepts. Are these
Yeah.
your dream projects that you have going on now? Is one of them at least a dream project for you, or all of them?
I'll tell you, getting a movie made is always a dream. So it's whenever you can actually, because the truth of the matter is, and this is important to know. So we have 30, 40 projects in development at all times and all stages of development. So you work all day, every day, almost 7 days a week. And you don't know where the day is going to take you. It could be all of a sudden you get a phone call. Like this morning, I got a call from Netflix saying that they liked the script that we submitted. We submitted it all over town. And now I got another one from Amazon. And now my whole day after this, of course, is going to be about how am I going to place this movie, which I didn't know it had a chance until this morning. So now that's kind of like taking off. We've got multiple television, documentaries, feature films. They're all in different stages of development. If we don't water them, we don't push them, we don't do something every day, most likely they'll just go away. You have to keep the momentum going. So we have a big whiteboard of all of our projects, where they are, what each one is, where they are in development, and you have to keep pushing. And if it starts becoming like a no, how do we get it back to a yes? What do we do? Who do we send it to? Do we get another element attached? So having 3 things that are super close, that's like we have to keep our eye on the prize, and like it's still a bit. A wonderful man and that I work with named Peter Guber always says, this is not show, it's show business. It's a business. So it's
Hmm.
not just we have to keep thinking, putting our business cap on. How much time do you want to waste on something that maybe is not the right project to be working on, maybe not the right time, maybe not the right people. So the 3 projects we have going right now, we've got a movie going with Sony. We're super excited about. It's based on a book, a wonderful book that one of my executives found, and it's just this great big beach read. And we sent it to only 2 places. We sent it. Well, I'll just say the good place, which not the good place, but the place we bought it. We sent it to Sony, and they said we can't buy a book without a take and a writer it was at 9 a.m. on a Monday. And they said, I'm so sorry, we're just not going to go get a writer and come back to us. She called us back by 3 o'clock and said, I can't get this out of my mind. I love this project. We're going to buy it. And so the studio helped us get the writer, helped us get the take. We built it together. We had 12 different writers up for the gig. We found the one we wanted. She wrote the most amazing script. Now we are currently in prep on this movie. We're going to be shooting in Spain in October, and it's kind of Mamma Mia meets Anyone But You. It's this really wonderful, yummy rom-com, but it's got a it's got a little bit of like a Bridget Jones vibe to it, and a Richard Curtis movie. So that one it's we just partnered with great people, and that's with Audible. It's an Audible book, so we're partners with Audible, and we have this great team that is pushing it to production, and a great studio helping us. Our studio executives, it's all her.
Yeah, it's interesting because you told me a little bit about the project, and it is sort of a haunting concept of sort of the one that got away, and all the different. I don't know how much you want to talk about the elements of it, but it definitely sounds like a really cool element. What's the working title?
It's called "Told You So."
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and it's
right.
based
So
on a book.
we will
Yeah,
look
I
for
can tell you
that.
more. It's wonderful. It's just primarily it's a girl who's always the bridesmaid and never the bride, and her best friend's getting married, and so she has to go travel on another destination wedding, get another dress, get a flight, blah blah blah. And she goes, and she's always the single one, and she gets there, and she's on her way there, and she is sat next to this psychic on an airplane, and she's like, "Oh, please do not speak to me. I don't." She's got her headphones on. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. And she ends up, for some other reasons, having to talk to the woman next to her, her seatmate, who's this psychic. And long story short, the psychic tells her that she is on her way to this wonderful destination and wedding, and that one of three men are going to be is her soulmate, is her man, and one of them is the one. There's only three guys, and the caveat is that she's known them for a while. So it's the one that got away. There's the one night stand, and then there's like the worst person ever, her mortal enemy. So she goes there not wanting this to be true, and then she's got to figure out which one of the guys. But it is so smart and so elegant and so romantic and funny. So that's one of them. The
That's
other
it.
movies at Paramount that we're doing with Skydance and Paramount, and that is we're partnered with Channing Tatum, and Reed Caroline is directing that, and it's a great script. It's a true story, and the writer wrote this movie called Madden that Nick Cage is starring in right now for David O. Russell, and we're casting that movie currently, and that we're doing in LA, first time ever. It's kind of like it's a Dodger story, but it's a little bit like the story is kind of like Scent of a Woman. Or like Holdovers. It's this beautiful, beautiful story. And it's this wonderful, fun romp. It's a drama and a comedy, and that we're going to be shooting in January.
Okay.
And the other one is fully independent film. I mean, so far, right now, based on a big book, and it's about this woman named Margaret Weiss Brown, and she was this one of the most famous children's authors in the world. She wrote Goodnight Moon and Runaway Bunny, and she hated children and never had them. And it's this incredible story about this woman who lived through these characters in her book. She had a terrible relationship with her mother. So the bunny is like based on her, her running away from her mother. And it's this beautiful love story in the midst of this strange, bizarre world. And Rebecca Miller wrote it, and she's directing it. And Rebecca she directed the Marty Scorsese doc, and she also directed a fantastic documentary about her father, Arthur Miller. And it's this. We have a big movie star attached to it, and we're just budgeting now, and we'll probably start that in the beginning, probably in spring. It's because it has to be shot that time, but it's incredible. That's one. I never say this, never, but that is one where I'm going to start looking for my dress, because this is an award-winning movie.
Oh, fantastic, huh? Fantastic. Well, we all certainly wish you great luck on that. I mean, those are three very diverse concepts. The second one
Yeah.
is really about Tommy Lasorda. So it's a sports when you talk about the Dodgers. So you've got three really diverse concepts there. So I'm wondering, like, what is the hottest genre in Hollywood today? What is the area to go in if you really think you're gonna come up with a blockbuster or a hit?
Yeah, that's our motto. Only make the hits. Um, right now, the big swing is romance. Everyone wants a romantic movie. Wuthering Heights and the JFK um, uh, Carolyn Bessette show did so well. Television and film, everyone's looking for romance, 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 romance. Like just that is like a big seller right now. Rom-com is making a comeback for sure, and I think there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of places looking for big romantic comedies. IP is king, intellectual property. It is king. It's a book, an article, like if a remake, an old, bringing back all these old titles, those are king. That's a blockbuster. Mario Brothers made $150 million on their opening weekend. I mean, Wuthering Heights, you could call it's a romance and it's a remake. It's a book,
Hmm.
it's an IP. A lot of these projects, people like what they remember, what they know. The biggest moneymaker out there was Housemaid with Sydney Sweeney. It's based on a book that was not a huge book, but a book. And it's a juggernaut, and they're already making a sequel. They're going to make the third one too. So a lot of things you look at is basically based on IP. It doesn't have to be hot off the presses, but it should be a book or coming from something. I hate to say that because you don't want to tell people don't write an original script. But even if you look at the biggest grossing movies of the last couple years, Oppenheimer, based on a real person, and he just did
Yep.
the Odyssey, IP. I mean, these are all. So I would say if looking for IP is really where it's at.
So, my years of working in television, I always thought, you're on a small screen and people see people on television as kind of smaller than life. And you would go to the movies and you go to a big movie theater and you see the movie stars and they're on a big screen and they're always like larger than life. And it seems like that all sort of changed post COVID. Um,
Yeah.
People weren't going to the theater anymore. And it felt like it also diminished the importance of a lot of celebrities, of a lot of the major stars. What's your take on that?
Well, the way that it's judged now is that it's about how do you get butts in seats, right? So it's really there are a handful of massive, bankable movie stars that mean something in the foreign market and the domestic market. And what the way we say it is that are they a theatrical name? Will they be able to get a theatrical release? Are people going to go see? They will see a movie with specific people, Ryan Gosling and Zendaya, and they'll go see a movie with, um, there's some people that you will go to see a movie for, and then there's some people you will wait till it, streams at home. So it's kind of hit or miss. There's in the boy space, the young boy space. There's Timothy Chalamet, and then there's Jacob Elordi. There's not a lot of that age group that really are big movie stars. And then weirdly enough, there's a lot of women almost 60, like late 50s and 60, who mean a lot. There's Julia Roberts, and there's Nicole Kidman, and there's just like a lot of the women in that group that mean a lot. And then there's a lot of female movie stars that actually mean a lot in
Mhm.
the 20s and 30s. The boys, not that much. The boys are a little bit older. So it just depends, but you can now get a movie star to do a limited series as long as it's not ongoing.
Mhm.
And you can get a movie star to do a feature film. The lines are a little blurred. It just depends. A lot of movie stars are doing straight to streamer movies. They'll do a big Netflix movie. They'll do a big Amazon movie that's not going to be in usually the streamers they'll only show the movie theatrically for two reasons. One, to get a nomination. So they have to show the movie for at least 2 weeks in a movie theater to get an Oscar nomination. And then it goes on to Netflix or on to Amazon or Apple. Or if they see the movie and they realize it is just the biggest hit they've ever seen, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got to get this new movie theater." So, but usually those are it's still confusing, and the lines are still a little blurred.
Mhm. Are movies in the movie theater making a comeback now?
Certain types of movies. So they're doing a lot of really interesting research right now. Obviously, the big blockbusters, so the DC movies, the Marvel movies, those will always be the big. You want to see those in a theater. And the event movies now are becoming a big deal, and those are really hard to find. So, I mean, if anyone out there has one of these, let me know. The event movies are like all the girls get together and they go see Barbie. They all go see Wuthering Heights. They all make it like event. Devil Wears Prada. That's going to be event. That's going to be event viewing. It's going to be that one. A lot of them boys will go too, so it's great because it crosses over. But that's the kind of momentum that people are going to the movies for, an event. They'll take a selfie, they'll have margaritas before they go, they'll go 3 or 4 times. Those are the movies that people are going to see. They are finding out, though, of course, horror. They all love horror. But look at Project Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary was a feel good movie. And I think it was
Mhm.
right time. Everyone wanted something that they could feel good about. They could laugh. You could bring your kids. You could bring adults. You could bring boys, girls. It was called what like we call four quadrant. It reaches every single person in the family. And that was an event movie to go see. So that's making a comeback. The in-betweeners still trying to figure that out. So Housemaid is a great example of one that worked, that everyone went to see. That movie is in pure profit, pure profit. It was made for $38 million, and it's going to make a ton of money.
Mm.
So yes, it's coming back in some ways, but not completely they're not making, I mean, I'm dying to see a good drama. They're not making dramas that people go see anymore, like those big old Oscar-y movies. I don't really see a lot of those anymore.
Well, what do you think the future is?
Oh boy. Nobody really knows. I feel like if we could keep trying to make these great big event movies, you could stay in the game. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't make movies with streamers. I would make a movie tomorrow for Apple, for Amazon, for Netflix. Their budgets are great, and you can still make the kinds of movies you want to make. It's just a different viewing, and that's okay.
But can you do a
Oh,
big
sorry.
budget movie and sell it to streamers?
Yes, yes.
You can.
Netflix is doing. Um, you could make $100 million movie at one of these places or more. Some of them are 130 million. As long as it has the right ingredients, it has to have the right movie star for their audience, the right
Mhm.
genre, and they will put a lot of marketing money into it. That's the other problem. If you make a movie for a streamer, if they don't put marketing money into it, no one sees it because no one knows it's there. It's not up to
Yeah,
you
for
though.
sure.
Real quick, the TV. I have no idea where one's going because everyone's watching YouTube. So that will be, we'll see.
Yeah, that's a very good point, huh? So let's talk about celebrities for a second and working with major stars. You mentioned Nicole Kidman. I know you've worked with her. You've worked with a lot of major
And
celebrities. Sorry?
oh no,
What?
I'm saying a lot of big female stars. Yes.
Yeah. And so, how do you navigate that world? Because as a producer, that's really your job to also manage the talent, right? Or to, you know, make sure everybody
100%.
shows up on time and, does what they're supposed to do, right?
It is it is a dance for sure because your job is to protect your talent, your director, and then you always have the studio right here asking what's going on, how much, blah, 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 blah. So you're trying to make sure that no one knows how many fires are actually happening at that time. So you're desperately trying to figure out how. I mean, my job is if talent's not happy, no one's happy. I want to make sure they have like the best place to live and their families are with them, and it's ideal for them and the schedules work. but you also have a director who is the same. He he or she has what they need. And again, you've got to always be mindful of the money. The money is super important, and they never gel. They're never all copacetic. So it is a constant juggling act. And a lot of it you just do quietly behind doors and try to make things work. Um, it's difficult. And it's also hard being an actor because, you're expected to show up and become whoever you're supposed to become and put all the rest of your real life aside and you're on. So I have a lot of respect for actors who do this and give up their lives and leave and live in this cocoon. It's fun. I mean, we all get to live in our own little world and our own bubble for as many months as we're together. But for me, I literally have like an ulcer in my belly. My hair's on fire, and I'm literally trying. I always say my goal is to make sure they never see me cry. Do it in the parking lot. Go outside because there's times where you're going, I cannot believe this is my life. But it's a juggle. It's a juggle. But
Go in the
obviously
bathroom
I
and
must.
close the door so no one sees you. So, how do you handle a difficult celebrity or a difficult director?
Well, you just have to listen. You've got to listen and try to figure out what is. I mean, for a director or for anybody, I always try to come up with not here's the problem, but here I always try to come up with three ideas of how to fix it before I even come up with this is the problem. So I'll lay it all out and say, okay, I know you want to go home and I know you've got this thing that you need to go home, but if I shut down, it's $150,000 a day. So for the actor, if I send you home or you can't work or whatever you're going through, I'll say, okay, here's three ideas. What if we did this, this, or this? And obviously try to run it by everybody else first and say, do any of these work? So before it turns into, a disaster, I try to figure out what's the best plan going forward. So it's constantly like sitting down, thinking, really trying to figure out how do we make this work. The director always, there's never enough days, there's never enough money, there's never enough light, there's never enough locations. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm constantly saying, okay, you have to come up with the fix before you come in with the problem, because it's always going to be no, always.
Mhm.
So you have to come up with, all right, so this is what the studio wants. They want us to cut this. We have we did. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of whatever the scenario is. They said no to this location. It's too expensive. We can't shoot past 12 o'clock midnight, or the cops are going to come. What do we do? We're going to lose light. So you always have to keep coming up with ideas to fix the problem before it just escalates into you're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds like good business acumen for any business that you're in. Really always have those three potential solutions for any problem that arises. Rather than focusing on the problem, focus on the solutions. And how
It's
to get it
also
done.
what does this person need from me? If
Hmm.
they don't, do they want me to be their sister, their best friend? Do they want me to be like, who do they want me to be? Because you insinuating yourself on someone trying to be what you think they want doesn't always work. So I've learned in my career is like sometimes just step back, just like, maybe they don't, just figure out early on in the relationship what would be best for them. Unfortunately, we come last. Like no one cares what we think or how we feel. So it's always about how can I best serve the person that I'm about to go embark on this experience with.
Hmm. Talk to me about the vault. What is it, and what does it mean to you?
The vault is my happy place. So the vault is the most wonderful organization. It's not even an organization. There was no fees. There's no signing up. There's no membership. It's just a group of women. I wish I could say that I started it, but I didn't. A woman named Kim Moses and Willow Bay, who just
Hmm.
realized early on that we didn't have a boys club for girls. We didn't have a Rolodex where I could call anyone at any time and say, hey, listen, I have a favor. Can you it doesn't have to be about my business. It could be about my health. It could be about legal. It could be about, I'm just about to take this other job, or do you know of a job? I mean, all of us go high and low of our jobs. We get, some of us, we have a job, we don't have a job, we're fired, there's consolidation. We don't know what we're doing. I'm sick and tired of my job because I don't feel well all the time. Like, you have to figure out what's best for you. But I never had a core group where I could just pick up the phone. Guys always help other guys. Girls just don't. They didn't do that because they were just busy fighting for their lives at all times during the time when I was growing up. So it was formed to do a couple things. One, to have a boys club for girls. Two, to make sure that there are more women on boards, paid board seats, which were at that time when we started the vault, 12 plus years ago, there were so few board seats for women. Also, there were like speaking engagements. If you looked at panels now, I think it's a little different, but it was a lot of the guys and there wasn't women. So we were just trying to help each other find a voice and also come up with solutions for each other. So the Vault is a group of women that get together. We have guest speakers every time who bring something new to the table, and every business in the world. I mean, we had the first female MI6, which is the British CIA, first female in the MI6 come and speak. We've had people from the most dangerous business in the world, which I did not know, which is the caviar business. It's all Russian mafia. There's a lot of murder and death by
Wow.
ounce. It's more than gold. It's more than gold. So we had a woman in one of the only female women inside the caviar business. But we've had lawyers, politicians, heads of studios, doctors, researchers. We've had, I mean, almost every single person in the group has some incredible story. And the only way to survive in the vault is you have to be honest, because everyone, you can't show up and say, I'm a CEO, I'm a C-suite executive, and my life is so great. I'm sorry. No, you show up and you go, I'm a great executive, I'm a shit mom because I can't do it all. Like, you have to be honest and say, what gives? What part of your life do you have to give up in order to get to where you need to be, and what are you good at? And because you can't be good at everything, that's bullshit. We cannot do it all. We hope, we try, but there's some things you just have to learn how to pivot, when to know what you're good at, when to know. I think the key to success is, for me, is knowing what I'm good at and knowing what I'm not good at, because it's really important that I find the people that know what I'm not good at and they can help me, because I'm not good at everything. I'm not an end all be all. I'm not a Miss Know It All. I will tell you straight up what I don't know. And I think that's super important about in a career. But the vault is just a place where we can all let our hair down, be honest, be real, and we can ask for things. We can actually get support. And without that, I mean, what a great experience it's been on my life.
So, I mean, if people want to join, can they do that? Can they apply somewhere?
There's no application. So what we do is we're all group of girls, and then we'll say to, like, this person, we'll put together, like, this person's so interesting, I would love for them to come speak at the vault. So then I'll just submit,
Is
like, this is a bio and this is who I think and this is why and this is what I think that you will get out of it. So it's just about someone who comes to speak, and then they share their life story and their experience, and then you're invited to whatever you want to come to or not come to. And sometimes we're super active and it's like every month, and then sometimes, we don't meet for a couple months and then we'll go on a great trip or something.
Well, I mean, the more we speak, the more I realize how much you and I have so much more in common than we've even spoken about to this point in time. But at the core of it all is about women helping women. And I know that's really very important to you in your life and the direction where you have taken everything professionally and personally.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I do think, and I know you do this, and I love this about you, is mentor. I always make time. If someone asks me or calls me or writes me a note, I always spend time on the phone with someone. I always try to help them, give them direction. Even young aspiring producers saying, I've got this great thing. What do I do? I say, here's 3 people, go call them. Because that's what was done to me when I was
Mhm.
young. And someone handed me their Rolodex and said, call everyone in here and find out who they all are and do the work. So I think the mentoring thing, I think helping each other and not trying, not trying to it's hard for other women to it's hard for women to help women. I'm not sure why that it still is. I feel like women need to get core groups of friends, stick with them. I'm not saying you have to have 100 friends or 100 acquaintances in business. Just have 5 good people in your life. That's all you need, is really
Yeah.
just 5 people in your life, in your business, that can help you, that can introduce you to someone. It's quid pro quo too. If you ask someone for a favor, then you should help them, just
Mhm.
constantly. I did a movie called Pay It Forward, and it was all about that was the concept, was just about pay it forward, and I've always kept that with me in my life.
How important is it to have a supportive partner, either personally or professionally?
I think it's super important. I think one, supportive friends too. I think if you have really good friends who support you and are always like cheering for you, that's really important because it keeps you feeling. I mean, I love my girls' trips more than anything in the world. I like cannot wait for any girls' trip. Anyone invites me on a girls' trip, I'm like, I'm in, because you just get this energy that you feel that you just don't get anywhere else. But I think it's important to have someone supportive in your life, vis-a-vis a romantic partner or a friendship. It really it took me a long time to get there as an adult, to really realize what that means. Who's rooting for you and who's not. But I find
Mhm.
that if you lean into people, you ask them questions, you're present, people see that. They do. They really, really do. I think people along for your whole life, they realize, oh, she's that girl. Someone said this to me and it always stuck with me. Don't always try to be the smartest person in the room. You should always be the most, I'm sorry, don't always try to be the most interesting person in the world. Be the most interested. And that really works. So
Well said.
listen. Yeah.
So, I was just
Lean
about to
in.
ask you, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Well, it's interesting. I thought that was really good advice because I'm really good at this. This is like my superpower, is listening and retaining and then remembering it down the line, because people do appreciate that. And I think as a producer, you realize it's not about you. I'm not an actor. I'm not in front of the camera. It's not about this. It's always about trying to listen and then acting on that. It's always and it's also just being a kind person. I mean, it's never gonna be always kind, and people will disappoint you. They will. But it's like, okay, moving on, just be smart and really know, keep everything like in your view, and know who people are, know what you, but also know what can you do? How can you make this experience better for everybody? How can you be
Mhm.
not a selfish person and bring everyone in. Everyone has ideas. Great idea. I love that idea. Really think of, like, listen to what people have to say, because we don't know it all. We don't. If we did, I mean, our lives would be we'd be in a whole different like plane.
So, for a young woman who's struggling with self-doubt, how would you
Oh,
suggest they overcome their self-doubt?
well, by the way, had self-doubt my whole life. I always had the imposter syndrome my whole life. Still, these
Mhm.
days where I sit in rooms and I'm like, "Oh my god, do they know I don't know what I'm doing?" I mean, that's just normal. We all have it. Every single person has that. Most women have it, I would say. I mean, maybe you don't, maybe you do. I know that
Absolutely.
suffer from it. Yeah. So we definitely have to. We all have self-doubt, and the phone, it just makes it worse. It exacerbates everything. If only I was at that, look at how pretty she looks, look how great she looks. She's so skinny, she's so tall, she's so amazing, she's so all of this. It's you got to turn off the noise. I mean, there's times on the weekends where I step away. Don't look at what everyone else is doing. Don't spend 20 hours a day looking at everybody else's life, because Instagram is built to show you the best of the best party, the best outfit, the best everything. We all know the reality of that. So I would say that you just find that superpower in yourself. What is it? What are you great at? Like there's things I know that I suck at, that I wish I were better at, but I know what I'm really good at. And that's what I use as the superpower. I like meeting new people. I like talking. I like listening. I like storytelling. Those are the things that I use as like when I go in a room, those are the things that I try to utilize. Am I am I uncomfortable and shy and I wish that I knew more? Yeah, all the time, but I just that's what I use as my superpower. I am not I mean, I wish I had Jennifer's superpower of I know besides her being a great journalist, I mean the way that the way you dress and you're so put together perfectly all the time. But I always think about those kinds of things. It's just the illusion of if you're not good at that, which I'm not, is just trying to make sure you guys always, always, always you don't need the most expensive clothes. You don't need to have the greatest of everything, but put yourself together. I love Zara. Go to Zara. Go to H&M. Make sure you do something like that that you look well, that you look together, that you figure out what that superpower is. If you're great in art, if you're great in math, if you're a great gift for gab, if I mean, guys, I was dyslexic growing up, and here I read for a living. I mean, what are the odds of that? I loved listening, so I listen to a lot of the scripts now on Speechify. So you try to navigate as you go along, and I would say we all have self doubt. You're not alone because this is something that every one of my friends and the vault, including these are Fortune 500 girls, Fortune 100 girls, they all feel the same way. So no one's alone in that feeling that way. And we can all be honest about it, but just dig down deep and go, what am I good at? What do I feel? Where do I feel like comfortable? Where is that thing? It could be with a bat in your hand. It could be making clothes. It could be making content. I couldn't do content. I mean, my hat goes off to influencers. I couldn't do that with ever. But I know that there's people who are great at it and my hat goes off to them. So that's what your thing is. Do that, but do it well. Do it great. Do it all the time.
You are so amazing at so many things, and I think all these issues of self-doubt are always just the stories that we tell ourselves. So maybe we all need to find another story to tell. You know, I actually heard that, one of the things that when we talk about women don't necessarily get the big films to make, but I actually heard that female produced films are some of the most profitable that are out there, and yet they're not necessarily given the opportunity.
I know we're trying to change that narrative. I had all these great stats I was going to read, but luckily
Oh,
I was
no,
too
and I didn't
depressed.
ask you about them?
No,
Do
no, it
you
was just
wanna
about
do
where women
what tell me what the
are.
stats
No,
are, we'll do them.
it's too sad. It's too sad. It's all about how women are just the dip everywhere. I pulled up all the stats
Give me some of these statistics that we're talking about.
of the top 100 top grossing films in 2025, only 39 featured a girl or a woman in a lead or co lead role. It was a significant drop from 2024's historic high of 55 films. The percentage of top grossing films featuring female protagonists plummeted in 2025, just 29% of the top 100, down 42% in 42% in 2024. 53% of the films had male protagonists and 18% featured ensembles. Not a single film in 2025 featured a woman of color, aged 45 or older, in a leading or co-leading role. Women's roles fell from 41.3% in 2024 to 37% in 2025. While the majority of male casts increased from 51.5% to 66.9%. And then directing was only 10% of the top 109 theatrical films in 2025 were directed by women.
But
Goes
see,
on and on.
that's why we need you, because it's going to be women helping women that are gonna get women to the next level. It's going to be
Yeah.
women such as yourself that say, "This doesn't make me happy, I'm gonna change that." Right?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
I mean,
That's
that's what
right.
it means to you're still in such a rarefied position to be
Right.
a female producer where you are at such a high level. I mean, you're still in such a rarefied position, and that's
Right.
what we need more of.
Yep. Two of my films, my three are written by women. One is being directed by a woman, and I would say two of the three are about women.
Okay, so let me ask you one other question. The dream project for the future for you, what would your absolute dream project be? Do you have an idea?
Oof. I mean, I think again, I would love to do a great big sweeping love story. That is something I would love to do. And I feel like I could get that done. I know I can. I feel like that there is a big opening in the market for a great sweeping, just love story. I mean, Wuthering Heights, it was something like that, but I think even something even modern day. Like, what is that? That would be a wonderful project that I would love to find.
Let us know one thing from today's episode that resonated with you and send it to us on my social media at Jennifer Valoppi or in the comments, and we'll post and read your responses to hopefully help other women who might have missed it. Every episode we do here ends with a micro action. That's something really simple that you can do now to improve your life and move yourself forward. Today's micro action is to edit your day. Just like in the film industry, removing the unnecessary stuff is just as important as focusing on the great stuff. So tonight, before you go to sleep, review your day and figure out what you can remove so that you can focus on the best stuff in your life. And finally, we support the Women of Tomorrow Mentor and Scholarship Program and the thousands of young women who are served through mentorship, education, and access to opportunity. If this conversation inspired you, please subscribe, follow me on social media at Jennifer Valoppi, and learn more about Women of Tomorrow at womenoftomorrow.org. You can hit the donate button there and help us change the world, one young woman at a time. Thanks for listening.